little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in. One frog said to the other frog, well, you better go get him. Two little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in. Last little frog, he sat and thought, good thing they can swim. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn. Three little frogs sitting on a log. One burst into a grin. One frog said to the other frog, wonder what's got into him. Two little frogs sitting on a log. One laughed until he is red. Last little frog, he sat and thought, must have been something I said. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn.
Was it?
Yeah. We are live. Holy moly. I just got the cue from the producer. That means we are out and about. Welcome to Jabber Jawn. I'm Nathan Moore. This is Kyle Hogg. Steve Moore.
Hi.
At your service. That's our new byline.
We have to carry something over from the last show each time.
So what were you saying about what your West Point reference?
It was
there?
something about West Point. They dug up some guy had built some bridges or something that helped during the war. That couldn't have been 200 years ago. Well, anyway, they dug up this time capsule from like 200 years ago. That these West Point. It was the class that Robert E. Lee was in, and everything in there had deteriorated. It was just dust. But then at the bottom, they found like a couple of old coins and a medal. But they were so excited, that they were going to find, all this, stuff. But the container was cracked. So
the container. I was wondering why everything would deteriorate.
Yeah,
like
so it
that.
was just, they said there was probably papers and stuff like that.
I guess that long ago they didn't have the technology to build a time capsule that would stand the test of time.
But they said the coins probably had a combined value of about $1,000.
That's got to be so exciting. Did they not know it was there till they dug the bridge up?
I guess it was buried under a statue of some kind of West Point cadet that had built bridges or something. So it was like an honor of him. They built this statue, and I guess they put a time capsule underneath there.
Cool.
Bridges.
So they didn't find anything.
They were comparing it. Remember when Geraldo did that Al Capone's
Oh,
vault?
yeah,
It
that was
empty.
The build-up.
Yeah, they were
the
comparing
drama.
it to that.
Oh, okay.
Because they didn't even know the coins were in there when they did it. They just said it's nothing but dust. But then when they took it back to the lab, the guy filtered. They were being very careful with it. And they filtered through it and found the coins in the bottom.
Remember when they got rid of the Robert E. Lee statue in Richmond, and there was a similar time
Oh, there
capsule?
was?
I remember watching live on YouTube or something as the archaeologists or whatever those people are called, like brought it all out with their gloves and dusting.
What was
it.
in that,
I can't remember. I watched it live though. I just remember that. There's some documents, some pictures.
Wouldn't it have been great if they had opened it up and it was a big sign that said Black Lives Matter?
That would have been awesome. I like your shoe fix there, Dad. This looks elaborate.
Well, it's just day to day, but but these are my racquetball shoes. I've had them for 20 years, at least, probably more than that. I wore them for about 10 years just on the racquetball court, nowhere else. And they got retired. And
You might be able to fetch some money on eBay for those. There's some Air Monarchs.
yeah, they're worn off and everything else, but they are the real deal from back in the day.
Yeah. Lex is super jealous. He's been eyeing this thing since you walked in.
Yeah.
He's a sneaker man.
Is that right? Well, maybe we can work something out, Lex.
Well, also, I have it written on my hand so I wouldn't forget. talking about 10 years, I was very fortunate enough to Saturday to go down. 10th anniversary of Made.
Oh, wow.
I went down there, spent a bunch of money,
Congratulations.
got a bunch of birthday gifts, birthday cake.
What a fun
I
shop.
know. Oh my God,
That's
my
wonderful.
favorite shop in town.
Yep. Good
I
job.
didn't know it was 10 years though. I was very. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
that's impressive.
Very
Congratulations, Lex and
Yeah.
Corey. 10 years.
Yeah.
Small business in a small town that is. Oh, you were hitting the money. Ching, ching, ka-ching.
Another sale.
That's,
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Every time I go in there, I think I'm going to buy 1 or 2 gifts, and I walk out with a bag of stuff that, you know. I always feel a little bit embarrassed when I go in there. There's a young lady that works in there, really nice. I'm always getting like slightly suggestive sexual things for friends or pot things. You know, I love to get high or something. I always have to go up to this girl. Hey, here's what I'm getting. All right, sir, you want to buy anything normal this time? No, this is all I'm getting again.
That's their fault for selling it in the first place.
No, I love that place. When I used to live in New Jersey, I'd come down here. That's the one place I'd have to go every visit. Go in there and just see what
Is
they
that right?
had.
That's great. That's
But I didn't know it was the 10th anniversary till I went in there.
Oh, you just happened by it?
Me and my mom went to the farmers market, and then I wanted to go to the book sale. So I thought we were going to the
there was a
Green
book
Valley,
sale?
the Green Valley Book
Oh,
Fair.
man, I haven't been to that
But so
in
she
years.
took me right past the book fair. Didn't take me. We went to this flea, like a thing with these near Harrisonburg with these 2 windmills. I don't know. It's like a big indoor farm. I don't know what it is.
Flea market? What?
It's
Did you
not
say
like
farmer's market?
It's what I don't know. It's like it's a big building with like a bunch of Trump.
So is it a
flags.
Mennonite? The Mennonite place?
It was sort of scary. Like everybody was selling like Trump books and Trump hats and all this stuff. But so
What else do they have?
well, they had like a food. They had a Mennonite like food, store, and
I think I know.
the
That's
marble store was there. But so I was like, all right, Mom, you didn't find me any gifts. So
They used to have a good bookstore in there.
oh, they did.
If it's where I'm thinking, yeah.
But so I came home and she dropped me off, and I was like, good, the old lady's gone. I can go down to Maid now and find what I really want. So I was,
Hey, some people may not want to bring their mothers in Maid.
Right.
no, she goes in there a lot, but she doesn't really. She's a little bit slower than. Oh, she talks to everybody. That's one thing. At farmers market, she talked to every. If you would walk by her, she's like, "Oh gosh, I didn't mean to run into you." Like, Mom, you didn't run into him. You grabbed him. You didn't.
You know what the Maid reminds me of is back from growing up was Spencer's Gifts.
Oh, yeah.
You remember Spencer's Gifts?
But it's more high class than that.
Yeah, it's way more high class than that. I have this such a vivid memory of going. He flashed this memory and he was like, "You don't want to take your mom into Maid."
Yeah.
But Mom and I were in Spencer's Gifts. They had all kinds of gag gifts and adult themed gifts and stuff. And there was this one wall of all these funny little gifts and stuff. And for some, it's so vivid to me. Mom sat down in the store and was just like grabbing them, just looking at them. And there's something about that just made me so my soul relax so much that my mom was just sitting in the middle of the store looking at stuff.
Oh wow.
It's some insight into her personality that just made me feel really safe.
Right. Oh, that's good.
And for some reason, I've always had flashes of Mom sitting in the middle of the Spencer store looking at those gag gifts.
Oh wow.
That's great.
I always buy a coffee cup at Maid. People tell me no more coffee cups, and then I'm like, this is too funny.
It's too
I
good.
gotta get it for somebody. The one I bought this time was 3 cats looking at it. It says something like, "What the hell are you looking at?" The way it looked was funny.
3 cats looking just out of the
Yeah,
cup. at
they're
you.
just looking like, the hell you looking at. The best one that I got there was I dated Pete Davidson, and all I got was this stupid coffee mug.
Where's that one?
I gave that to a friend of mine that loves Pete Davidson.
Where'd you find that?
It was at Maid.
Yeah. That's good.
Christmas time, I gave everybody ones. It's like a nice flowery, it's a flowers all over it. And it's got this flowery writing, "Might be high." So you're sitting there drinking your coffee. And I'm always afraid my mom's going to come down and like ask for a cup of coffee and go be sitting there and not even read it. I'll have to be sitting there with her drinking, "Might be high,"
She might be.
Oh, my God.
She might have a secret life you know nothing
I
about.
know, probably does. Yeah, that's a fun place to go.
Bird.
You want to jump right into the bird?
Man,
We're
look at
mixing
that.
up
Well,
the
no, I
format.
thought we would.
No, I like
I
this.
didn't think we were jumping right in. I
it-
thought there was a break.
It's 8:15.
No, it's just a new. We usually do the bird towards the end, but I'm in
Well,
favor of
I was
moving
thinking.
it up.
I
though.
said last week I thought we ought to do it early, just to get it out of the way. But I was also
No, don't
going
say
to think.
get it out of the way.
Well, I was thinking of just to make sure we get it in,
Oh.
more or less. But also that I actually was thinking about telling people or advertising, but that would put it like at 7:15 we're going to do the bird, so that like people with children, if they wanted to gather them around for.
And then after the bird, all right, now the kids should
Now,
leave the room.
We're going to Maid, so you might have to get the children out. But but then I thought that's just too much organization. So I was just sitting here with my bird, but
I'm ready. I'm excited about this bird.
I do want to get
One
it.
of my favorites.
I do want to get it on out there. So.
Okay, put it ready.
And I don't have a whole lot to say about it because the bird is the species that we have locally is called the ruby-throated hummingbird.
Ruby-throated
So
hummingbird.
in general,
That's a mouthful.
most of us that live in this area grew up. That's the only real hummingbird we know.
Is it the only hummingbird that we have?
Well, there's a few others, and you might get some that'll just get lost, kind of.
Passing
But
through.
none, yeah, they're just moving around and trying, or maybe try exploring a new area. But as regular patterns, there's a rufous hummingbird that it's more out west, but it'll get over this way. Other than that, the ruby-throated has the whole East Coast. And they summer here all the way up to Maine and all the way down to Florida. And so, like in the springtime, when they come through, that first ones that you get early, some people will get them in May, and other people won't get them till end of June. But the people that get them early are getting the ones that live up north. They're just passing through.
Oh, they're on their way north.
They're on their way north, so there'll be a
interesting.
week or so where you'll get ones, and then the
So-
ones that live here during the summer will get in finally.
So
and
that's
then-
blowing my mind a little bit. So the what you're saying there, those the ones that live here, talk about like
live here in the summer.
how does that work? Like
Well,
a whole,
they're coming from Mexico, and
so they
parts-
fly all the way south for the winter.
all of them,
All of them.
except maybe some of them might hang out in Florida. And with climate change, that'll be interesting to see too. And there will be people studying it, I hope. But well, that's one of the most remarkable things about the hummingbird that I did in all my reading was that they could, with that little body and the energy that they can make with their heartbeat, as much as it beats, that they can fly across the Gulf of Mexico in
It's
one night,
unbelievable.
Wow.
which is
I don't even think of them as gliding at all, but they must.
and
to
they
do that,
they
right?
have, well, they're so light and they do ride the wind just like the other birds. But they're so small they don't really soar because they don't have any wings, so they are pumping that whole time. And I don't understand how they could do that because they only weigh a couple ounces, and where's the energy coming from?
Yeah, it's amazing.
But then the other little statistics like that you read. By the way, you sent me this card a while back, and
Oh, look at
We can
that.
show that if you remember that. That's
I
a,
do remember that.
a local.
Let the producer know when you want to show
Yeah,
the
that was
mail,
a
your
local
mailbox.
artist made that.
Yeah, that's a local artist there.
This is not a very good light on that.
But
It's beautiful though.
yeah, but those. What was I talking about before we did that?
Oh,
No, is that a ruby red?
Yeah, this is the male ruby throat. I want to
Okay.
talk about that. But I was talking about their size and how they can make that trip,
Right.
and the energy that it takes is just as remarkable.
It is remarkable.
I don't see. That's one of the great mysteries. That doesn't make any sense how they can do that
Mm-hmm.
because there's obviously no place they can stop and get gas
right.
on the way over.
You
Yeah,
said it
you
just
can't
takes them one
land.
day.
Yeah, I think they make it in one night.
Wow.
So it's crazy. Yeah, the ruby throat.
Do you think they go like really high
I
and
think
glide in, riding?
I think they probably do. They're riding those same currents, and they are light. Or maybe they jump on a seagull or
Do
a
they-
hawk's back.
The hawk wouldn't even notice.
No, you could ride 5 or 6.
Do they is it a whole flock of them that does that?
They're pretty much solitary. They go on their own. They don't go as a flock. But they end up being in the same place at the same time a lot. So, but they're very solitary. Socially, they're very interesting. They're
Are they in
cattle
a
owners.
family way?
Pretty
They-
much.
they mate for life or anything
They
like-
don't mate for life, and the male doesn't do a lot to help out once the babies are there. So it's kind of a nomadic, independent life that they live. Behaviorally, they're fascinating. If anybody, I don't need to talk too much about them because people know them so well, but we can talk about any little things about them. But you know, their behaviors at the bird feeders just drive me crazy because you know you'll get one come up and then another one will just come in, woof, and then they take 5 minutes and chase each other.
Mm-hmm.
And they just and think of how much energy they just use chasing each other when they could have both just got on one end of the bird feeder. It's just
Gether's dad has this whole issue with his hummingbirds because he has these hummingbirds that he loves, but then there's these ones that he calls Rufus that come in and chase and take over,
Bigger
and
ones,
kick
yeah.
and kick the
Yeah.
little guys that he likes out.
well, I was
And
going to
he's
say if
infuriated by
the
those.
people out west that are watching us tonight, all of them, that they don't have the same. When I say ruby throated, I'm thinking that well out there they have 6 or 8 different species, and South America, Costa Rica, I bet they've got I don't have a number, but they have all kinds of different, and some of them have long tails and color. Well, the best thing you can do is get on YouTube and just get the listening, those listening things that have hummingbird pictures.
Right, right.
And you can just watch hummingbirds for an hour.
All around the world.
Yeah, from around the world because the colors are just, God is just up there drawing, just using everything he can come up with. Every color in the world. Well, while we're on color, we'll talk about that ruby throat. Once again, we're not talking about pigment. So when you look at it, if you look at the male from the side, it looks dark or brownish or gray or black. If you look at it straight on, that same one, it'll be that ruby color. So it's the way the light goes in and comes out and hits your eyes.
Wow.
So it's only when you're looking straight at it does it look ruby throated.
Interesting.
Yeah. And of course, it is a red color, and their eyes pick that up. So they are attracted to red and yellow. That's the
That's why all the
colors,
bird feeders
and
are
that's
red.
why the bird feeders, and that's the flowers that they are most likely going to be attracted to. So, but it also another amazing statistic is that the average hummingbird on a day out here, 1,000 flowers. They visit 1,000.
What?
1,000 flowers a day is
Gosh.
the average.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy.
You can't imagine that. And plus,
Are
Wow.
they the only bird that does that?
it does what?
Visits flowers.
Probably solely.
Sounds like it's something dirty. What'd you do last night? Visited flowers.
It doesn't sound dirty.
Oh, you're weird.
What do y'all want to do? Let's visit some flowers tonight, man. Get a couple of
Still
drinks
doesn't.
in.
And no matter how surly you try to make your voice sound, it still doesn't do anything.
Come on, Papa.
Okay. So that's the thing on the color. The male is the one with the ruby throat, and then the female doesn't have any of that coloration. So if you see a dark one, it might be a male you're just not looking at. But if it has a white bib but doesn't really have any dark, that's the female. And so
Gotcha.
you can tell them apart.
I wish I'd prepared more for this because I took some great pictures of hummingbirds when I first got my camera. That was my big challenge.
Oh,
one day.
really?
I sat out back by our hummingbird feeder,
Well-
had the camera on the tripod, and was sitting there with the remote, and just trying to
You
get
can
it.
make a little slideshow and
It's-
put it on for next week.
It's a great camera tutorial because those wings are flying so fast to get the right shutter speed or whatever to actually see.
Oh, yeah.
It was
What is
fun.
it? I
Really
think
fun.
that's another amazing statistic is the number of like wing beats is like 55 beats a second. A second.
Wow.
A second.
Second.
A second.
That's crazy. Clutch just shared a nice hummingbird photo on the Discord.
Cool. Yeah, there's so many great shots of the hummingbirds.
Is
but,
that the ruby?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's a great picture.
That's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
What was it? I had something I was going to say about those. Lex, if you want to show that picture, I'm going to do a family ad here for a second. This is.
Yes, up.
I want to thank my granddaughters over in Charlottesville for that mailbox. I've had 5 different people stop me when I'm doing my walks and compliment me on my new mailbox.
Wanting to know where they can get one themselves.
And we're going into business,
Right.
but the girls painted these different birds, and I have the other pictures we can show. But that's
That's so
the
beautiful.
that's the side with the hummingbird on it, and there's a robin on one side and the bluebird there. And what I want to tell you, ladies, is y'all did such a good job that we can put another order in. But on this particular one, we need to add a new little bird on the left side, and I'll give you some dimensions, but y'all need to draw us a Phoebe.
Yeah, we should add a Phoebe to the mailbox.
We have to have a Phoebe Joe on the mailbox.
I love
So
it.
that's the assignment for your cousin to greet her into the Moore family. So, and thank you so much for helping me with my birdhouse and for that artwork and for being there, and I hope to see you soon. So, thank you.
Well, I didn't know that they're good artists. I didn't really look at it that close when you first sent it to me. That's nice.
Yeah,
I'm sure Jocelyn had a hand in there.
Jocelyn. Yeah, they told me which ones did what, and they
That's
all did a
very
different
cool.
one. And I can't remember who did what, but they're all beautiful in their own way.
Very
And so
nice.
I don't know who wants to do the Phoebe. Maybe all of us will draw a Phoebe and we'll pick the best one or something. Have a Phoebe contest.
Now, do you have a type of bird that you would, at Phoebe's, at her young age, do you have her pegged as a bird? Any particular bird yet?
Phoebe?
What do you mean?
Do you have her pegged as any particular bird? Oh, you want her to be a Phoebe, the bird, the Phoebe.
Bee,
Okay.
yeah,
okay.
she is. Her name is Phoebe.
Yeah.
So we were going
Right.
to have a Phoebe as a
Now,
bird.
what does a Phoebe look like? Is that a pretty bird? It's not like a
It's
buzzard.
just a little brown bird.
Okay.
It's pretty, but it's not distinctive in many ways, except by its behavior and
Not colorful.
personality.
I don't want it to look like a buzzard or something. You,
No, it's not a buzzard.
And you say,
It's a handsome bird.
and you say that's my youngest Phoebe.
Yeah, no. I'm glad Joe didn't name her Buzzard. But that would have been bad.
Buzzard Joe Moore.
Buzzard.
I mean, that would be an interesting life.
Well, it was a little girl. Well, it was a little girl, so we named her Buzzardine.
She came out smoking a cigarette. I couldn't believe it. Hey, buzzard!
I feel like those would be two completely different lives. I mean, like, it's not that your name is that prophetic, but I mean, come on. You're going to
Oh
live.
my God. She's beautiful. What's her name? Buzzard. What?
I know. I've thought often about that, with it changing people's names.
Changes the course of their lives.
Yeah.
You have to imagine that the difference in the life of a young Phoebe and a young Buzzard Dean would be
Well,
two
one-
completely different paths.
Well, one of the family stories was that I did have an issue there with my youngest, and he ended up being Joseph. And there was a movement right at the end. For this very logical reason, I wanted to name him Mercury.
Right.
I just thought, how could you not be a run back,
Mercury
pat punts
Morris.
for your Mercury Moore?
Mercury Moore.
Yeah.
I mean, he sort of lived that life anyes.
Yeah,
so
but
maybe
that's
some-
all he needed was the name.
Right.
It would have gotten him at USC or maybe Longwood.
Mercury Moore. I might start calling him
Yeah.
that anyways.
Yeah, maybe we can get him into something else. That game.
Right.
Yeah, you could be Mercury Moore.
Yeah. Hey, who
Take
knows?
an
I might
alter
steal
ego,
that.
practice every
Get my
night.
carom chops. He's pointing over at my new bar sport that I have here in the basement now. It's Indian billiards, a game called carom. More on that later. Bookmark that. We can talk about that.
All right, let's finish up the
Yeah,
hummingbird.
I want to know more.
I mean, you can ask any questions you want, but I don't.
Go to YouTube, everybody. Apparently, it's breaking up really bad on Facebook and Twitch. Try YouTube is the place for all kinds of reasons. Head on over to YouTube.
Okay.
Now, do you think hummingbirds stop at like if they're going all the way to Maine? You think they have places they know and remember and they stop?
Oh, definitely. And one of the things, speaking of that with memory, I did read that they can remember individual flowers. They've done the studies that if they have a certain flowers that are producing more, they can remember that.
So, are you saying they've done a study where like the hummingbird that visits our backyard might be the same guy next year?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they'll come back to the same area.
Went all the way to Mexico, came all the way back to our
Well,
feeder.
yeah, any one you see here has spent this. All of them have been in Mexico.
So, is their home where they were born?
Yeah, yeah, where the nest was.
Where they
That's
started,
where-
where
yeah,
they were born,
where they were
will
born.
always return to that
Yeah.
that home.
Yeah, the nest looked like that size, or that little round. I saw a nest one time. I watched the mother live on the nest in that tree.
I don't think
Sycamore,
I've ever seen a hummingbird
the
nest.
sycamore tree at Frank's Mill, and it was like 5 days before the leaves came out. I could actually see the nest, but then the leaves came out and covered it up.
Wow.
But it was so, you just couldn't imagine that there could be a baby bird in there, but there were
Right.
two.
Wow.
She raised two. They usually have one or two eggs.
Wow.
Tiny little eggs, I
Just
imagine.
amazingly small.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I've never thought about this before, but let's say you're a 6-month-old hummingbird and you've just been hanging out in Maine, and your parents, are killed. Is it just instinctual that they'll get up and fly to Mexico, or do they have to see other birds flying, or that's just in them?
I think they can go on their own.
Wow.
I think it's like imprinted,
Right.
genetically imprinted.
That is remarkable.
Isn't that crazy?
And that
is
is
crazy.
just so hard to imagine. And the same instinct, there is some orientation to the stars as they fly at night, and they might be using that as a GPS.
Are you making that up?
No,
So you're basically saying that hummingbirds are smarter than us. It sounds like what you're telling
I'm
us.
saying
so
that their
far.
brains can do things that we can't understand how they could possibly do it, especially when you think of the size of their brain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Bird brain is a common insult.
and that's with
It's-
a buzzard.
It's
They're a bigger bird.
it's a compliment as far as I'm concerned.
Can you imagine if we could teach them to play guitar or type with those wings going 55 things a second?
Eddie Van Halen.
I've just finished my book. I would like it typed. It's done. Here you go. Wow.
They could do that a lot faster than I could record it. Just like when you see their wings, you can't even imagine that they can possibly do that. Oh, here's the other thing. They're the only bird that can literally go back and forth like that. You know, flutter.
Oh, side to side?
Flutter side to side. They can go backwards.
Ah.
They can go forward and backwards because
They're the only one that does that.
they're the only one that has the lift, the strength in the lack of lift. Most of them have big feathers to lift them up, so they're better at going up than they are down.
Mm-hmm.
The hummingbird can pump the same way both ways. That's the difference. So his backhand is just as strong as his forehand.
My buddy Chad Galactic has a bird phobia, a flapping phobia.
The flapping?
And for him, I would say the hummingbird is probably the ultimate nemesis, the ultimate fear-invoking bird. Because
Really?
Because if they think you're a flower, they'll come up and buzz you, and they'll hover, and they can circle your head. They can do all these moves that no other bird would ever do to you. And I've been sitting still on the porch before and had one come up like really close and just sort of, I mean, that's for a flapping phobia. Hummingbirds are
And along those lines, by the way, the sound they make when you hear a hummingbird is a hum, and it is the wings. It's not the bit.
right.
Yeah, they do have a little squeaky sound if you listen to them. They'll squeak to each other when you're at the feeder.
Their song.
Not really any songs, but they'll squeak. But most of the sound is the beating of the wings.
Man.
Ornithophobia. Ornithophobia is what our friend
Oh,
Chad
fear of
suffers
flapping?
From, yeah.
How's that defined?
Ornithophobia.
Ornithophobia. Is it just the fear of flapping or the fear of birds?
Fear of flapping wings.
Fear of flapping wings. It's a whole thing. And yes, Swaby, we covered that, but just to reiterate, they don't migrate in flocks, but travel solo. Solo? Or as a smaller unit?
I think they're pretty much
much
on their own.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they don't flock up at night or like some birds. They're very solitary.
Does the male and the female team up to raise the babies at least?
I
Or?
was saying, I think from what I've read, they don't. Once the female's on the nest and has the babies, I think the male is pretty irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure of that, but I think it's more the female. I don't think there's a good balance there.
Once the male visits the flower, he's got 999 more to go. He can't be hanging around to raise any babies.
Both the male and the female visit 1,000 flowers a day.
Theoretically, that's
And what are they doing? And I don't know if we ever got the answer to do any other birds visit flowers?
I don't know. I don't know that. I mean, I think there are some that that do a little bit of that, but not as much, and not dependent on it. By the way, the hummingbird needs protein too, and you don't get that just. So they do eat insects. There's all kinds of little microscopic almost insects around that nectar that are feeding on it too, and so they're eating them too.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not just sucking up, and they're actually eating little bugs and stuff in
But
there.
the nectar probably has the caloric
That's
gift that they're 50 flaps a second.
exactly. They have
need.
to have that.
It's like sugar.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. One other thing I could mention is they can go into something called a torpor.
torpor.
Torpor. A torpor.
Papa.
Papa.
Papa's in
I think it's a tupor.
Epiphany?
It's where their heartbeat drops way down to like 50 beats a second, and they're like it's like they're in a hypnot when you go to sleep, hibernation period. It's the same slowing down of all your metabolism. And it looks like they're dead. And sometimes you can just flick them and they'll just roll over. They'll be flipped up. They look, you think they're dead or they're sick or something.
Oh,
And that's their way of conserving energy. And so on a cool night like tonight, they're going to do that. They're going to be in a torpor.
It's the old Augusta County pastime of hummingbird tipping. Sneak up on them. It's like a carom.
Carom.
It's the same as like everybody has their own
All
technique
good
to do
carom
it.
players are hummingbird tippers. That's the background you need.
Did you ever go cow tipping?
That's the next question, huh? Did you ever go cow tipping?
No.
What is cow tipping? The hummingbird tipping was a cow tipping joke, which I don't know if that's just native to Augusta County or
Cow
if ever...
tipping's when you live in the city and you don't know anything about cows, and they get you drinking beer, and you don't know anything without drinking beer, and they get you in the back of the car and say, "We're going cow tipping," and they take you out there in the country, and you jump over a fence, and if it's barbed wire, you usually come back with blood on you. But usually you'll cross over that fence, and then they're going to be laughing, and they're going to point and say, "What you got to do is hit him right up the side, up there on the left side. If you hit him just right, they're not ready for it, and their feet go under them, and you can tip them right on over."
Jane told me she's been cow tipping before.
So is it like a snipe hunt? Is it all a big
No,
No,
it's a
I-
real,
practical
I think-
joke? You can really tip them?
I don't know from experience,
Ah.
but I know from people that say it's happened. It does happen.
Well, Jane was telling me they would go out, and the scary thing is like when you wake them, if one starts running, they all start running. So like if you hit one and it doesn't go down, then they all start running. You're sort of standing there in the pitch dark
Well, yeah,
with
it
cows
could,
A
tramping
herd,
all around.
stampede.
yeah.
That's called a stampede.
I wouldn't do anything like that, and I don't really. In other words, that thing I just said about hitting, I made that up. 'cause
Right.
I don't know what the real technique was. I'm sure
But
there,
she said they did it?
Yeah.
but it was done.
But she was like a
The
teenager.
assumption was you were drunk,
Right, right,
so it wasn't a serious sport.
right, right.
But I'm sure there are people out there that could know more about it than I do. I just know the folk legends.
Right, right. Me
But
too.
that was just all it
It's
was.
funny that we all know that folk
Yeah.
legend.
I mean, I don't think a country boy would fall for it.
Right.
So that's why I said, I think, you just have to not, I don't want to mess around what
No.
Friday night.
Last thing I would want to do.
Yeah, I
right.
mean, good Lord, why would you want to go out in a field with a bunch of
Oh,
cattle?
Ben is pointing out, like, one of the things that's fascinating about cow tipping is it illustrates how cows sleep standing up.
There you go.
So there's something to that they are asleep standing up. And I bet if you just gave them, if it's probably, a few of you.
Probably was a shoving thing. I don't know.
You can sneak up on them and tip them right over, according to Ben.
Man,
Everybody in Virginia knows about this. Look,
Yeah,
y'all don't know cow tipping?
I'm ignorant of it. I have to admit.
Ben and Jane out there tipping over cows in the middle of the night.
Got a new respect for Jane there.
What is it? The movie Blazing Saddles where he knocks out a horse or a cow or something? Isn't that?
That's where he slugged a horse,
Yeah.
in Blazing Saddles. He popped a horse.
Any other hummingbird questions out there? I feel like I probably have some.
Oh, let's see.
I guess there's a
Let me-
lot of change in the idea of the feeders. Like you hear a lot of talk about the feeders are poisoning the hummingbirds.
Yeah, there's all kind of this. You got to be careful with that. Like a lot of there's no reason to put any food coloring, for instance. There's no reason to put anything in there but water and sucrose.
Sucrose is
even
just
brown
sugar?
even brown sugar is not good. I mean, there are things you shouldn't do, and they're all you can Google that.
What's
but
sucrose?
that's just regular table sugar.
Right, good.
Just use regular table sugar and you're okay. But all they say it's not nutritionally valid. No, neither is giving your kid a popsicle. But it's also giving them energy.
Right, probably neither is what's coming from the flowers to a certain
Well, to
extent.
extent, I mean, they're using you like they would a flower. Yeah, And
I
they
guess the
can't.
concern is if it sits out there in the heat.
Well,
over time.
and that's a real concern because the water can go bad and it can be polluted. But you can also put stuff in it that shouldn't. So there are reasons why you got to be careful. Now I'm lazy, so I don't trust myself to change it often enough.
Right.
So I don't put unless I'm going to watch it or I have a reason. I haven't been seeing them the last few years. I used to get them, but I haven't been trying to get them. I
Right.
put my feeder out Tuesday.
Oh, you
because
did?
of this.
Oh, just to get some
Yeah, and,
new
and,
fresh
I,
data.
and all I'd be doing would be getting some that are coming through.
Mm-hmm.
So one morning I'll be sitting out there and one will stop by and I'll see him for a little bit. So that's what, but I don't have any, I didn't have any resident ones. Now I'm sure the people next door might have, but I wasn't trying to, I don't have that many flowers. I'm working on that, but
You do always feel, I always feel graced by their presence.
Yeah.
It's like an exciting sighting here at the house.
Yeah.
Where Kether and I will report to upon seeing one later. Guess
Exactly.
what I saw today.
That's what I don't know if this is just my people that I know or my family, but they almost give like a magical thing to hummingbirds. Like it's, Uncle, Bob's come back to see us. It's always like when they show up, it's like, oh, like somehow God has sent this little bird to grace you or something.
100%.
yeah, there's definitely a magic about them.
Yeah. So you think that's a common thing that people associate with them, like a blessing, or you're lucky to be able to see them and spend some time with
Yeah,
them?
well, they're just miraculous creatures. Any way you look at it, some of the things we've already talked about.
Right.
But they're beautiful.
They
too.
won't land on a regular feeder, right? Is that true? With seeds in
No,
it and stuff?
they can't walk.
They can't-
There's something.
What?
I just heard that one last night. They don't walk.
They don't
Maybe I
walk.
shouldn't say they can't walk. They they perch, but they literally, with the shape of their body and everything, they don't walk.
Wow.
They're either flying.
I've never seen one walking.
Yeah. That's weird.
You've seen them hop.
Yeah. Right.
You're trying to like move on a branch or something.
I saw one hitchhiking out on Stella Boulevard one time.
Just gonna do something different.
An older one because his wings couldn't keep up the pace that it
Yeah, all
was.
right.
Yeah, they were down to 40 beats a second. Well, that's all I got.
What's the lifespan?
2 to 5 years.
2 to 5 years.
If everything worked out well.
No, I imagine them being prey for a lot of other type bigger birds or some kind of animal.
I can't imagine anything catching them. I'm just the
They're
opposite.
so quick.
Oh, really?
I don't think anything's going to. If they were in that torpor, I would think anybody could catch them. But if they were the other way, not many things are going to catch them.
Wow.
Swaby on our Discord servers shared a video that he shot of some hummingbirds in his backyard in Utah.
I think I saw that one time. That's beautiful.
Or they might just be photos. But so would those be the same as we have?
Well, it could be, but probably not. I didn't study any of the species.
Oh, he's got
out west.
music with it.
Wow, we are so high tech now.
We are so high tech. Oh, look, there it
Look
is.
at that.
You can go full screen with that for a second if you want, Lex. No, on the show. Oh, it is full screen? Go to max screen on the laptop.
Wow. You don't get this anywhere, folks. You're lucky.
Swaby's home video from his backyard. Are we going to get a copyright strike for this music, though?
Thanks, baby. You won't see us next week. We'll be out for a couple of weeks. Coming up with a
In
new
the
show
doghouse.
name.
Thanks for sharing that, Swaby. That's
That's very
beautiful.
cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Very cool.
Wow.
Great bird.
The hummingbird.
The hummingbird.
Yeah, it's a beautiful concept.
To hummingbirds. Cheers.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Man, this is our first toast we've ever made. Isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. It's back to
Wow.
that grace.
Pretty old hummingbird. Has there ever been a band called the Hummingbirds? Isn't there like a gospel group, the Humming something?
I don't know.
There's got to be a band called the Hummingbirds, like a
I don't know.
acapella
I've never heard of
band
one.
or something.
Steve says, does Mr. Moore have any info on why it is that you almost never find dead crows or ravens? I don't know that you ever find many dead birds, period.
Are you implying that he picks them all up and has them himself? That's the reason you can't.
Is that you, Steve?
Yes, he does know why. Come into his basement, you'll find the skeletons of thousands of them. I always wonder about all animals. Where do birds, where do animals go? You never just walk in
You
the
don't see many animals because other animals and bacteria and everything feeds on them. It's all one big circle. But I thought about what he just said, and I think a lot of it is they have a lot of will, and I think they know if they're in trouble, and they're going to probably fly away up into the mountains and die on their own in the rocks, on their own terms. That would be my novelist way of looking at
Gosh,
that.
that's
You see
beautiful.
from our own dog pets and stuff that they try to go somewhere away to
Yeah, I think they're going to try to get away from being seen. They have a certain
dignity.
dignity about it,
That's interesting.
and I think
Would crows or ravens
ravens
be
and
unique?
crows are very intelligent, and wouldn't put it past them for a second to think that way.
Right.
But also, they just in their, a lot of them will die while they're flying, and they're going to fall in some place where you're not going to see them. So they're just they don't die out in the open, and they don't die on battlefields where you can see them. And so they're not going. They're going to be a lot more secretive in their dying than we are. That would be my answer.
Sounds plausible.
Yeah.
This is a little bit off the subject, but I read last week that if you put all the ants in the world compared to all the humans in the world, ants weigh more than all the humans in the world.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's true, but I read that.
On the internet,
I believe everything I read on the internet.
it's so hard to know anymore.
Well,
I
yeah,
guess that's plausible.
it's like I read like 10% of the life, the biotic life on the planet is ants.
Wow.
Wow.
So, yeah,
10%?
and they're arguing. By the way, in the latest, they're arguing that they're winning.
They seem to have a certain intelligence to them.
The poll numbers are up. The ants are up to 14%.
Yeah. Well, they have a certain genetic imprint to do certain things, and it works.
We had this. Catherine might not let me share in this story just because she doesn't want to relive it. But at one point a few weeks ago, these ants had found the cat food, and they had come up through a hole in the floor where the cable was coming through. But there was a line from that hole in the floor all the way up the radiator to the cat food and back. So, like, was there a scout that did? What's up with that line? How did?
Well,
Tell the story of how that transpired.
it's all,
as far as you know.
they all have chemical recognition things where one ant can smell where another ant has been. So that's the first thing. They're all recording. So if they send out these scouts, and if they find some food, then they backtrack, take it back, and then they'll follow the track out and go back, and then you'll get a line of them.
So it's leaving like a little trail of scent.
Of smell, of
How
molecules.
fascinating is that?
What's so weird to that? Because when Mayhew was in his last days, he wasn't eating very much, but I put food out, for him. And I come home and the same thing. I'd never seen an ant in the house at all before. But when the food was sitting out all day, I came home from somewhere behind the refrigerator. There was a line leading right to a totally straight line. Then they got in the bowl and they were like, a pig pen wild. But
Yeah.
they were
But
like,
that
they're
line is single file.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
they're just following that right to the food. That's
but the first one had to go back.
yeah, or they would send out another scout and and it would report back. But that's why when you see an ant wandering around, he's a scout. And if you get rid of him, I kill him. Or sometimes I'll catch them and carry them out. And, it depends on if I'm doing my Buddhist training.
Right.
Or my redneck ways.
Mood dependent, yeah. It's your lucky day, little ant. I got my inner Buddhas shining today.
Don't you have a song, something about your dad doing his Buddhist trainings or the redneck ways? I'm hanging out in the laundry and Dad's upstairs either doing his Buddhist training or his redneck ways.
Which is it going to be today? His Buddhist training or his redneck ways?
It can be confusing, I guarantee you.
I see a lot of ants are heading right up his pants.
Well, you're...
I think he's going back to his redneck ways.
I don't know. That sounds more Buddhist. But...
I mean, that's crazy how these animals they're not even animals. Like, how can they have this stuff inbred into them? It's just so
imprinted.
It's just so crazy.
It is crazy.
There's only one person that knows that. He went to Lehigh. It'd be Francis Collins.
No.
Francis knows.
He might know.
Who's Francis Collins?
Oh my goodness. This is because I'm reading this. I'm almost done with this Margaret Atwood book. That is right up the alley of like genetic, like, they're splicing together all these animals and coming up with new life forms. But I bet someday they'll be able to take that like nest building imprint out of a bird and implant it into a frog or something. You'll have a frog that will just build a bird's nest because they transferred that gene or that, whatever that, what would you call that? Would it be a gene?
Genetic splicing.
Like a genetic.
Yeah.
So what do humans know how to do? Like what's...
That's a great question. Do we have any imprinted instinctual ability? Well, language.
But when we talk, if no way was
How
around
about
us talking.
breathing?
Breathing?
Yeah.
That doesn't feel unique because all animals have that.
But it's fits the category of what you're talking about, of something you just do without thinking about, or just you can.
But language
you're imprinted with it.
Right.
I guess what you're saying is, what are you born with? And
but language is a really fascinating one for human beings. There's a lot of Noam Chomsky's early revolutionary work was saying that the most interesting thing about humans and language is that we actually have the innate ability. We have a capacity for language that's in our genes to begin with. And so it makes something very unique about us. But it's not just that you can teach us language, but that we have a genetic predisposition to learning language and using it.
To use
I
it
don't,
in
I
a
don't,
beneficial way.
I don't really know enough about it to say any more than that. But that seems to be maybe a similar thing unique to human beings, that we have a genetic.
yeah, I think the predispositions is a good word, but in other words, we're not born like fully formed, but because we don't have to, because we have a learning process to learn those things. So you want to be more of a blank slate for most of these things, but for some of them, we just do them. There's a direction that we're going to take based on our genetics. We don't have the whole package like an ant that knows exactly, but it doesn't have any ability to be flexible.
Right.
It's lost its flexibility, so it's rigid. What we've gained by leaving it open like this is the ability is that we're more malleable, can go into different directions,
Right.
and learn a lot of different ways and a lot of different things. And that's got us where we are today as human beings. So the skill that we have is to have a opened and large mind.
Possibilities.
The possibilities.
There are humans the only creatures that like Nathan wants to entertain and perform and stuff. There's no other animals or creatures that want to get up and
Yeah,
entertain other animals.
you
Is it?
definitely see different personalities in dogs.
Do you think like dogs go to the dog park and they want to entertain the other dogs?
Well, no, wait a minute. If you get back to sex, this whole peacock thing, and what's a
It's true.
peacock doing? He's putting on a show for the whole world, and it's based on his sexual things, but it's all inherent.
Right.
So he is entertaining.
There are a lot of like mating dances in animals, especially birds.
Oh yeah.
Where there'd be a whole like
But is that more a sex drive, or that's like you want to like tell a story, or you want to? Are we the only people that can tell a story? Are we the only creature? Like, are we the only one that can tell something that happened in our past?
Yeah, that's very possible. I I might argue if I was a cetacean.
a what?
That's what I was thinking.
What'd you call yourself?
I didn't call myself that. I said if I was a cetacean.
A cetacean.
A cetacean.
I have no idea what a cetacean is.
I think his mic's breaking up.
CET.
He's got a fear fluttering wing.
ACEN.
Cetacean.
Cetacean.
CETACEAN. What's it mean?
Are we the only? Are we the only things? Are we the only?
I'm
creatures-
not a cetacean. You're not a cetacean. If I was a cetacean, I would argue that the whale song is what you're talking about.
But what is a
Story.
cetacean?
Telling stories to other whales.
An ocean creature?
Cetacean is a mammal. The term for the mammals include whales.
Wow.
The
I've never
water
heard that
mammals.
The water mammal. The cetaceans are the whales and porpoises.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a real word.
Don't
Check me out.
Ah, don't
Yeah,
don't check him out.
but I have never. I don't think I've ever used it. The word cetacean, and then when I said it, it sounded funny, and it sounded very poetic because it didn't sound like what I thought when I said it.
So what makes you think a whale song might be a form of storytelling?
Well, they are long and they have a melody and they have a long tone to them, and they can travel for 1,000 miles. The song that they sing goes out to all the whales in the area, so it's a way of communicating for sure. But I would think, and there might be if you're doing that, they might as well be entertaining each other too.
What a great premise for a book or something where we crack the code of what the whales are saying, and it's super profound. Like it changes everything once we decipher their language, and all of a sudden we realize what they're saying. I haven't gotten that far in this novel, but
I think that May's gonna have a cetacean section the next time I'm in there. Cetacean. I thought you were gonna say like a philosopher or something. I didn't know how to do with whales.
I knew I had a new word.
Like painting or writing a poem or just sitting around a fire telling a story or something. No other creatures.
Art.
Yeah, they don't do that, do they?
Not really.
Well, I guess birds talk back and forth, but are they really saying anything? Let me tell you what I heard yesterday.
I don't know. I think you hear about as much as you do from them rich folk north of Richmond.
yeah, I mean that sort of goes back to language, but yeah, I mean, I know we've talked about this before, but I was just flashing on it again, and it's still I marvel at this idea. Does that mean it's marvelous? That's where I got stuck up, but I feel like that's different. But the fact that human beings of all animals are dependent on the parents for so freaking long. I mean, compared to every other, you look at a deer is born in the woods, it's walking that day, like within minutes, it's up. And within days or weeks, it's out running around. Every animal within a very short amount of time has to be independent. But humanity,
Because it's boring. There's nobody telling you any stories or anything.
That's what I mean. That length might have something to do with why, like why they don't have to communicate the way we do or something. But it is just so fascinating to me how different humans are of all the other animals and that dependence on the parent for years.
Well, and part of that would be that you don't understand why that would have an evolutionary benefit
Right.
because it's so hard. Whereas the deer, like you say, the next day he can defend himself.
Mm-hmm.
A 3-year-old's not going to make it at Walmart by himself.
At all, yeah, a 3-year-old cannot provide for itself. A 4-year-old,
No, and that doesn't make any sense on the surface.
it doesn't make any. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, best case scenario, a child might be able to provide for itself at 6 or 5 years.
But does that have anything to do with our lifespan? Like we live to be 70 or 80, so
That's a good point.
Instead of we don't live to be 10, or 14.
True.
So
Yep, that's a good point. But back in the day, when we were evolving to live longer, we weren't living that much longer, but we were still set up the same way with these babies being born that can't do anything.
Can't do anything, right? No matter what.
It's almost like, before they were ready to be born, we're throwing them out into the world. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, mother doesn't want to keep them another 2 years either. It's a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Bring a child into the world.
They can't even walk until what? 2? Is that when they walk?
Yeah, around 2.
Can't even walk. That's a inferior design as far as animals go. I mean, that is.
Yeah, it's like you're taking them out before they're done
But
every time.
There's something about our blank slate, our language, our aspirational natures, or whatever that dependence probably cultivates, or I don't. It must make sense on some evolutionary level of the way we use that dependence in that time to
Well, it
become
allows
what we're
us.
meant to be.
It allows you to be taught.
Mm.
Whereas the others, everybody else was locked into a way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
This gives us freedom of thought, which gives free to, as you think differently, as you develop, you can adapt differently.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole key to man's success is adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see the hummingbirds are a great example. If the flowers don't make it one year, the hummingbirds are gone. They don't have a backup plan.
Right.
But if we lose our fishing, we're going to grow whatever's eating the fish.
right.
now, does let's say we live to be 72. So a parent takes care of you till you're 18. So let's imagine a deer lives to be 10. There would be no deer taking care of another deer for 2.5 years, would it? They would just be like, oh my God, get out of here. I mean, we're basically like a fourth of our lives almost, like just taken care of. I mean, we can fend for ourselves, but we come home, food's ready, not paying for where we live. Take me here, do this for me. Like, no deer or no, birds could be, take me to the, I saw there's some food over there, take me. Like, you go get it.
Mom. Cather says, we're meant to be there for each other by design.
Well said.
It is interesting that, like, the most advanced brain thing on the planet is, in its lifetime, vulnerable for the longest of all other creatures.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, even at 6, if you're able to, like, sustain your life, you're still not strong against a lot of things.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
right, at all. Right.
Like, even physically, it takes 18, 20 some years to really get in it.
Mm-hmm. Till then, it takes a village. Can y'all hear Lex, by the way?
No.
Testing new producer. He wants to be the Robin to our Howard Stern, and we're completely into it. We want that.
But I keep forgetting.
We also
that
want
you
him
know-
to be the ambassador to the chat, but we're experimenting. Oh, you put on your lapel mic.
I did. It was
Nice.
sitting there. Nathan's doing a good job with the.
Clutch just said, "Give Lex a mic." Work in progress.
See, all you gotta do is wish it, Clutch.
I'm only like 10 pages away from the end of my third novel since you got me
Wow.
reading. I
Well,
can't thank you enough. Thanks.
That's really impressive.
It's
Now, what was the name of this novel?
this one is Oryx and Crake. It's the first of a trilogy by Margaret Atwood.
I didn't have never read that.
It's her trilogy.
Was it good?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to I have another book I want to read that I might go to next, but I'm definitely going to finish this trilogy.
Perfect.
I'm into it.
Well, good.
But you know, it's been nice, part of a holistic, my life is reshaping in all these ways. Getting a little bit more, finally cutting off the internet a little bit. Not my life isn't revolving around live streaming the way I want to get back into it eventually, but I'm
Yeah.
enjoying exploring this.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think that's very good.
Yeah. Just
Yeah, I did do that with novels, and but you just like you've dropped that a lot longer than I have. But I'm finishing by tomorrow. I'll finish the one Cold Mountain.
Cold Mountain.
Yeah, it's just another but it's set right after the Civil War.
I read that.
Did
You read that?
You read that? And at first, I don't like the violence when it's without any purpose at all. I just don't like to go there.
You've never liked that.
Never have. It's just not
In movies or anything?
Yeah, I'm weak in that area. I
Mhm.
throw
You've
up.
missed a lot of great movies.
Yeah.
Because you're aversion to violence.
Yeah, it's just a phobia.
Cold Mountain is a movie.
What's that?
They have a movie for Cold Mountain too. So.
Oh, Cold Mountain?
Yeah, I can't wait to see the movie.
Mm.
It was funny when I was over at his house Monday. We were looking through the VHS tapes, and remember he told us we were talking about Davy Crockett that one time, and he was telling us about what was that guy's name, the boatman or something?
Mike Fink,
Mike Fink, the boatman. I don't know if you remember that. We were
King
talking-
of the River.
We were talking about that one
Nah.
night. So I was pulling out all the
What's that from?
from Davy Crockett. So I was pulling out all the VHS
Walt
tapes,
Disney
and I
Davy
found oh, here's a Davy Crockett one, Man of the River. He goes, that's a good one. That was a good one. That's the first time you introduced to Mike Fink, and it flashed in my mind that we had talked about it like 2 months
There's
ago.
probably violence in that, isn't there?
Yeah, but
like a Disney
it's not
All right.
gratuitous, and it's
Gratuitous.
yeah. I mean, like the British kill people, but they don't show the gore, and they don't make it ugly, and they don't show the face of a young woman in fear. I don't like people getting hurt and people being afraid, and yeah, you can look at it psychologically and say I'm just afraid, but I don't think it's that. It's just that I have an aversion to doing that or to being in that place. I can do it.
So you've probably never in your life been properly scared by a horror movie.
Oh, I have.
Yeah?
No, I've seen them, and that's how I've
Do you have
learned.
you have any visceral memories of a
Well-
horror movie that scared you?
Oh yeah, the one about the possession,
Oh, The Exorcist.
The Exorcist. I remember that, walking out of there saying, "Why? Why?"
Oh, you saw that in the theater?
Yeah. And I said, well, why did I just do that to myself? I'm never going to be the same, and nothing good came of that.
Right.
So that's kind of, where is that violence? What am I going to get out of
It's
this?
sort of like why some people feel that way about roller coasters.
Oh yeah.
It's like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It does
exa-
nothing. Other people, it's a
Well,
rush.
it's
like
there's an adrenaline thing. I know a lot of people that like that. I'm just shaking my head saying, why do you like a horror? They like to be scared, and it's adrenaline and it's a biochemical, but my body chemistry is different.
You think that's what it? You think that? I mean, you might be really onto something.
I think it's a lot of it. I just am not comfortable. I mean, I can do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not afraid of it. I just don't enjoy it, and I
Right.
don't know why you want to do that.
But it's almost like a drug.
Yeah.
that some people
Some
are a
people-
little addicted to, and other people have a
Yeah,
complete aversion to
I
it.
think
Like
there's a thing in a human being, if you get afraid, but deep inside you know you're safe, taking that
Right.
adrenaline ride is fun. Now, as soon as you're not sure if you can get out of here alive, then it's gone to a different level and it's not fun anymore. But I
Right.
think if it's under control, and that's what a horror movie is. But for me, I don't live in terms of the movie, I live in terms of the visual image. And I'm very visual about seeing that particular thing takes me to a whole place in my mind that I don't want to go. I don't want to be there where that's happening. So I avoid that.
I can't. What I actually have a tolerance for violence and horror movies, I guess, but I do not have a tolerance for graphic depictions of injury, or like doctor shows where they cut into the body and they're opening. I'm a look away. Kether, tell me when it's over.
Yeah.
Anytime there's anything like that.
And they do more and more of that. And to me, there's a whole thing out west in California, whoever's making those movies. Like I'm watching a football game, and some of the most violent horror, like this knock on the cabin door, these advertisements for
right.
movies, and all of a sudden I'm seeing some of them horrible, the most demonic face behind this little girl opening the door. I mean, why are you doing that to me? I'm watching a fucking football game.
It's just a cereal commercial.
Jesus,
Just a cereal commercial.
I don't get it.
Right.
I just don't get it. And I don't think they have a right to do that to me. They just went into my head and threw all of these horrible, and I'm serious, these are horrible images. I'm not just some Bible-toting Southern boy.
Not yet.
Well, it's in the mail.
Well, it's funny, like Nathan was saying. I'm like Nathan. I can sit and watch, teenagers be ripped apart by Freddy Krueger or whatever. That doesn't bother me. But if there's a dog going to be hurt or something, I just change the channel. Forget it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see a cat or a dog hurt. This is satanic. I won't even watch any more of it.
Now that's
You
funny.
just got a hoorah from Kether upstairs, right?
I mean, I've actually changed the channels. I think they're going to hurt like an animal. I'll be like, no, this is done.
That's so funny. But we're just a click away.
Right.
I like humans, you like dogs. I'm cool with that.
Something I was thinking about when we were, to get back on the other subject, but you probably don't want to. Are we the only species that has a knowledge of our history? Aren't all other animals their lives and that's it? We can sit here and talk about people, back to the ancient Greeks. Do we think of what a power and
Well, that's all very recent. In terms of evolution and time, that's a drop in the bucket. That's only just started.
But
That our ability to
Well,
recall the past,
mankind in general.
Right.
Well,
But,
I mean,
but the idea of history, human history.
But you might not be able to go way back, but you knew what your grandfather did. Like your father would tell you what your grandfather did. The animals don't ever say like, "Hey, you
No,
know,
I don't think animals
care."
have language at all. They don't convey any complex thoughts.
So it's just that their time on Earth that's it, and the world ends. There's no future. There's no back. There's just
there's only the
I'm
present.
dying. The world's
Only
dead.
the present.
Right? Wow, wouldn't that be crazy?
There's something very. It's sort of it's sort of a mixed bag.
Well,
in some ways I envy them, and in some ways I pity them for not having that.
That's true. All of them are saying, you guys just don't get it.
Right.
It's not just that we can't appreciate, we know that there isn't anything else.
Right. They're enlightened. They used to have language. Evolutionary wise, they parted with that a long time ago. It's nothing but trouble.
You're coming out the other end.
We are primitive in nature. We're sitting here patting ourselves on the back and congratulating ourselves, and they're just rolling their eyes.
The humans,
Meanwhile,
the
we're the
humans
only
are still carrying
species
that
that likes to
baggage.
kill itself.
Right.
grandfather was a bad man. Why am I carrying that baggage on my shoulder?
Yeah, we're definitely the answer.
Now, what if it's like, what if you don't see anybody getting hurt or damaged, but do you like being like I can't think of what it'd be, like a fearful situation, like a movie that's not really.
I like suspense.
Okay. Yeah.
Suspense.
I like
What would suspense
I
be?
like whodunits.
Whodunits. That's not really suspense, though.
No,
That's
but
like- that's a
you
puzzle.
can combine the two.
What version of suspense do you like?
Well, I mean, I used to like the westerns and things where you'd have one of the things that's happened as you get older is there's only so many plots, so if you kind of know what's going to go down, and
I guess like the Apollo movie would be suspense. Like, are they going to survive this? Like,
Well,
the
I
ship
mean,
breaking down and they're out in
suspense could be
space?
whether a relationship's going to work or not. You could have it with people, and any
about-
story can have a suspense. And it's like Cold Mountain. I want him to get on back and be with her. There's a suspense there, just
Right.
waiting for the drama to come together in a certain way or not.
How about like a good ghost story? Nobody's gonna be hurt. Like just like if somebody's really. I mean, I've sat around and heard people really tell a good ghost story where you're like, and nobody's gonna get hurt. But I mean, do you like that type of?
Sure. Yeah, I like any story.
Was this aversion lifelong?
I have no idea how.
Because when we're kids, like there's the classic archetypal campfire horror story or whatever, where the adult is making the kids terrified or what.
Yeah. I think the things
Tell
that
you a little story about this campsite or whatever.
ghouls and things like that I don't think with my logical mind. If I don't think it really exists, then it's not going to scare me in the movie. The thing that scares me in the movie is gratuitous violence and deviation and things that do happen in the real world.
Psychopaths.
Psychopathic behavior, but inflicting pain for no reason and that type of thing. But I mean, it's more like, it's not like I can't do it. It's just like, again, I say, why?
Right.
Why do
So you weren't necessarily the kid at the campfire story that went away crying.
No.
Couldn't sleep.
Hell no.
Like,
No. I
whereas
went over.
another kid would be
I-
like,
I
tell us
went
another
over-
one. Tell us another one.
I
That was
went
a good
over
one."
and beat the shit out of the guy that told the story. Well, I didn't think it was a nice story.
That's not a nice story.
I'm hard to figure. I guarantee you.
I don't approve of violence, but I'm gonna beat the shit out of you for telling that ghost story.
This is not gratuitous.
You deserve it.
This is justice.
This is payback, motherfucker.
I was listening to a John Mellencamp interview last night, and it reminded me of one of our conversations. And you were talking about guys in a bar looking for a fight, and he was, according to him, that was his youth. That what brought him joy was getting high, then starting to drink whiskey, and when he got drunk enough, he'd go out and find the biggest person in the bar and pick a fight with him. Wow! And that brought him joy. And he was like, I never won.
But
It wasn't that he enjoyed beating someone to a
Right.
pulp. He liked getting his ass kicked.
the thing,
It was-
but it's almost like we were just talking. It's the fear. It's the overcoming
Adrenaline.
the fear, and like I'm gonna face what I'm most afraid of.
Well, so many of the things younger people do is adrenaline
Right.
rush based. I mean, you can just say that and drop it, but there's a lot to it. But
very
to
true.
create that energy of vibrancy of being alive, we thrive on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that too, but I did it in different ways.
Right.
So
Well, sports. I mean, I'll sit there just calm all week, Monday through Saturday, just calm. Then Sunday, you get into a football game, you're like, you're oh, kill him, you just can barely control yourself. You're like, you lost, you idiot, you moron, It's just like you said, you're totally safe. You don't have anything to gain or lose from the game. But you're just just like a movie or something.
It's just,
How does that work from a chemist standpoint? Like, so like you jump out of a plane, parachuting, or whatever, and that fear releases a chemical into your system that's already there, right? But it's
well,
not.
no,
But you're not.
You're stimulating the gland to produce more.
Tell
so
me
it's
about that.
shoot- it's
What's
just
going
shooting
on
it.
there? What?
Well, it's like fight or flight when you get that situation. One of the things that'll happen, there's a trigger, and something's triggering you that there's a threat, and then you have this, and all of that. So one of the things it'll do is trigger a chemical release of whatever the gland is that makes
Is this
adrenaline.
adrenal gland? That's
Yeah.
a thing, right? So what is its
Well,
purpose in the first place?
energy. It's preparing you for a fight or flight. So it's pumping energy out into you, and that's what when you get in the movie theater and you're scared and you can just feel it pumping, and some people take a certain chemical and it produces that type of thing. When you talk about nervous system stimulants, that's tending to be the direction you're going. You're making more adrenaline, whereas other people. So some drugs, like alcohol is a depressant. People don't realize that it's not really like cocaine. That's the classic. Stimulate you, going to make you talk a lot quicker and
Right.
make John Belushi will be 3 times funnier.
Right.
But but so some things stimulate and they produce more, but some things slow
Is it all adrenaline or different?
Well, I think adrenaline is just a word for any like a
What's
neuro.
dopamine isn't.
Yeah,
is that
that's one of the.
different
Dopamine is one of the neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine. So it's a balance of those, and then the adrenaline can switch off on those. So it's all. Those are just all.
thing? So basically, like, we have this thing called an adrenal gland that is a primitive part of our makeup that enabled us to have a spurt of strength or energy in a time of threat, of danger.
Exactly.
So we have this whole gland inside of us, but we don't have much reason to use it anymore. So we come up with these artificial ways to activate that gland to produce that chemical because it returns us to a primal part of ourselves that we don't generally access, whether it's a roller coaster or a horror movie, any way that you can get that adrenal gland pumping. It's a pretty fascinating way that we could use our imagination to activate a gland inside of us to produce a chemical that courses through our body and gives us a rush. Am I understanding that?
It's so weird too. Like I've had a couple days ago at work, I was on Harrisonburg, and I was traffic. Somebody let me in, and I was looking at the traffic coming towards me, so I cut across and I almost hit a car that was up here. And when I pulled him, I was like shaking.
Right.
I was like, that thing released it, but I didn't really have any reason to run or fight. So just making my, I was just sitting in the car like, oh, like you can feel it like just coursing through you, even though you don't need to do anything. It is really weird.
Super weird. It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing where some people are stimulated by that and go back to the entertainment value, but I'm not.
Right.
I never have been. I never have liked being stimulated. I've tried cocaine. I said, no, that's just the opposite of the way I want to feel. I don't like to be that excited.
Right. Probably similar for like parachuting or things like that. You wouldn't rock climbing or
No.
like any activity that people get into that's all about that stimulating
Yeah,
the adrenaline.
yeah. I don't need to stimulate that.
Where's the gland? Do you know? Like where in the body?
Is it in the brain?
I don't know. I'm not even going to try to go there. I think so, but I'm not. And I don't want to put too much just on that particular chemical because it's a whole process.
Right.
Your
The
whole
thing they talk about with social media, the dopamine thing, is that a
Well, it's
similar
it's
phenomenon?
all in the same ball game. The dopamine serotonin balance is what makes you happy or feel content or, or neurotic or whatever. So you're looking at things that would imbalance that, and adrenaline does that. One of the things adrenaline's going to do is give you a huge amount of energy for that short flight, but then after that, you're going to, you've used up that, you're going to crash too, which is exactly what happens. And so you get up and take another snort.
Right.
No, like after a good show, how long would you be like wired up, ready to, like you weren't just like, I don't think band members come off and just exhausted, aren't they? Like pumped
You're
up.
pumped up
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
Unless it was a terrible show. Yeah. Definitely, a lot of people say public speaking is the number one fear, ahead of death.
Oh,
Like
I
the
agree
list
with
of people's
that.
biggest fears: public speaking, then death. But public speaking beat death. But if you brave it, that's the success of karaoke. Like it's a way for people to go have a few drinks and face that fear, and maybe change the world with their voice.
I can't believe the first time we did this show, my friend's like, "You can't do that. You can't even talk to people in public." And I was like, "Well, it'll just be us sitting there. I really can't see anybody." They're like, "Don't go in there. You can't do that." Now I sit here, I feel pretty comfortable most of the time now. But if people were sitting here, if we had, all 18 viewers sitting here, I'd be very nervous talking in front of them.
You'd be sitting up against the wall hoping nobody noticed you.
So when the adrenal gland squirts that rush through our body, why does the heart start beating so fast?
That's the message. That one of the things is saying is that you're threatened here. You better be ready to run, and you better be ready to fight, and you need to be able to pump faster. So it just, however the chemicals communicate, that's the communication you get.
That's such a great phrase. I wish we knew who came up with fight or flight. That's like a perfect, it's
Well,
like
that's exactly what it is.
somebody should, if somebody thought of that now, it'd be trademarked, the day after they thought of it,
Yeah.
I came up with fight or flight.
Whoa!
Every time you use it, you owe me 25 cents.
But either of those options, you would need your heart to be beating.
Yeah.
You need that energy coursing through you to run or fight.
It's either run or gun. You gotta do one
Run
or
or
the other.
gun, fight or flight. Endorphins. There's a good
Oh,
word, Ben
yeah.
says.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
Well,
Same thing? Or?
those are the chemicals that are produced that make you feel good. The feel-good chemicals. It's all communication. It's all chemicals communicating with each other. So they're all fitting into something. So serotonin can get to here quicker if you use this cell. They have all this chemical. So it's all that type of stuff. But
Now, are the cells and all the stuff in our body, is that the same that's in like a dog or a frog, or is it the same? I know it has a different texture and look, but is it basically the same thing?
it's the same protoplasm. Yep. It's just the same units of life, the same building blocks in the cell and everything.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just how the molecules are arranged that makes us a different
Wow.
organism.
I can't believe it's already 8:30.
Is that right?
Already 8:30.
That's amazing.
Let me. I was
Time
gonna
for a song.
bring up another topic in the same line, but I'll give you guys an assignment instead along these lines, because I do want y'all to deep dive this a little bit as well before we talk about it. But for the last couple of weeks, I've been deep. There's so many amazing limited series out now on Netflix and Prime and stuff like that about the opioid crisis and the role of Purdue Pharmacy and the FDA and everything. There's one called Dope Sick, and there's one on Netflix called Painkillers. But I didn't even realize how much of an epicenter right around us it was to that entire thing. And I guess it's still
West
ongoing.
Virginia got
West Virginia, yeah.
the worst.
But the story is unbelievable. I mean, these shows, and I've really enjoyed watching because it
Which
seems
one would be the best one to start with?
I think Dope Sick, that's on Prime, I believe. It's right. Lexus thumbs upping.
I don't know what channel it's on.
Right.
Dope,
Dope
Sick.
Sick. It has Michael Keaton in it, playing a West Virginia doctor, small town doctor.
Oh, it's
But-
a movie? It's
Well,
a
it's
fiction?
limited series,
Oh,
like
okay.
many episodes.
Oh,
I thought it was a documentary you were talking
I
about.
thought you were talking
No.
about a documentary too.
But it seems like every platform right now is sort of coming out or has come out with their own treatment of the opioid epidemic, their own depiction, their own telling of that story. And on Prime or whatever it was Dope Sick. On Netflix, it's called Painkillers. But it's sort of just fun to see different actors playing the same character and stuff like that. Like there's that side of it too that's just sort of fun. But the story, I feel like it's must watch viewing for every citizen of our country to understand the dynamics and how that went. How the FDA, the guy at the FDA gave OxyContin this special label explicitly saying it was less addictive than any other opioids, which
Why did he
a
do
lot of
that?
small town doctors trusted. Well, the same guy that wrote that label went on to work for Purdue at a pretty, so there's all those dynamics at play. It's the corruption and the greed, but then also the importance of these institutions, how doctors trusted it because the FDA said this. So I don't know. There's just so many things we could talk about in terms of that, and there's these great series on all these platforms about it. So if you guys could find one of those and watch it, I'd love for us to talk about some of that stuff. It's horrific. It's heartbreaking. It's fascinating, and I just feel like it's a dynamic of how things work in this day and age that we all need to be aware of.
I feel like we know just from friends, because I know people that had a problem with opioids, you know, because of a wisdom tooth pull from like 5 years before or
Right.
whatever. So we know those stories. So it's nice to know like how that even happened. You know what I mean? Because I think people that get addicted, addicts, can, you know, have like a stigma for some people, you know, and it's like, no, these
See
are
it as a
normal
weakness
people
in their-
that just got a toothache, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And now 8 years later, they're like jobless, their family, just lives ruined because they could not get off this thing.
Right.
So it's about time some accountability's out there on the networks, you know.
Definitely.
Which one did you see? Dope Sick?
Dope Sick, yeah.
You should do Painkillers next. Although there is a scene at the beginning in the first episode of Painkillers that Kether had to tell me when it was over. Just going back to what we were talking about earlier. Depictions of, you could see it coming a mile away, like, oh my God, he's about to get hurt really bad, isn't he? Oh, no, oh, stop that. Oh God, here we go. Yep, his back's broke.
As long as they didn't hurt the dog.
I hope that car hits the man, not the dog.
I thought I had a guitar pick on me. I'll grab one. Gosh, well, I don't have a song for any of this.
I remember when we were kids, my mom took us to see Benji, you know, the dog movie. My brother screamed and cried. We still tease me about that. You would have thought the roof of the theater was collapsing as much as he cried and screamed. And Benji, like, I think they just kick Benji or something. They don't really even kill him. They just kick Benji. My brother was like, rah! He was like out of his mind.
This doesn't really fit today's show, but it was the perfect song for last week. I kicked myself later that night. I was like, you know, the song I played was also perfect for last week.
Right.
But I had this brand new song that I
More perfect.
maybe. but it was new. Like these new songs, I struggle with them because back in the day when I was touring, you'd write a song and you play it that night at the show, and then if it went well, then you played the next night at the show and the next night, and then over time it became just part of the repertoire or fell away.
Right.
Nowadays, I don't have that proving ground for the songs, and I don't have the repetition to where they become really familiar. So a lot of the songs I've written over the last couple of years, I have fallen away, but not because they didn't work at the show, but just because I never got a chance to sing them again. So really, I've lost that immediate touch with when I write a new song. I might forget it.
Now, do you record all these, or you just remember them?
I usually document them somehow. And I feel like y'all heard a record. I feel like I played a recording of this song when I first wrote it. I feel like I'm out of tune here. Well, you think that you've seen everything, gone everywhere. Now nothing could surprise you, no, not anymore. So you tumble through the night until you pull the curtains tight, with the wide world right outside your door. Don't you know it's not right that they don't get to see your shining eyes? Though they closed, you do not hide. We can see you, good morning rise. When you think about the past, you crawl through the looking glass that is shattered and scattered on the floor. Who you trying to please down on your bloody knees? We need you to believe like before. Don't you know it's not right that they don't get to see your shining eyes? Though they closed, you do not hide. We can see you, good morning rise. Talk about shame like it's a lion you can't tame, like it's a flame you can't extinguish but won't burn. It's a shame you can't pretend to start over again this time through. Just think, my friend, of all you've learned. Don't you know it's not right that they don't get to see your shining eyes? Though they closed, you do not hide. We can see you, good morning rise. Though they closed, you do not hide. We can see you, good morning rise.
Very good. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you all
Yeah.
so much.
Very good.
We love you. Till next time.
Good luck.
Hang in out there.
Go see us.